belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me.
Where's he going with this shit?
Oh no, you belong to somebody new.
'Cause tonight you belong to me. I'm from One West headquarters. Follow my captain's orders. Live in the land of pain and torture. No straw, but they want they mortar. Tell Trump, fuck borders. P.S. Prepare for slaughter. Never take they sons and daughters. Never give them alls in return. Niggas never wanna learn. Till they laying in the urn. Babylon, Babylon, Babylon. You got to burn. Even if I gotta go with it. So fuck it, is you with it? Niggas never feel froggy, they just wanna rip it. If I see a bad bitch, then I gotta rip it. Your lip looking like the Red Sea when I split it. Tell me why that flow so vicious. Every time he switches, beat a nigga ass like mama did with switches. You niggas looking real, real gay. Where are the bitches? I mean, where are the sisters? Better stay away from witches. That's a brouhaha. Love me as she brew, yeah. White people, he brew now. If you didn't know, then you do now. You belong to me. Yeah. Alright. This nigga's bonkers. From the same city as the Knickerbockers. Name ring bells from here to Yonkers. Or Nicaragua. You niggas too thirsty, you need some agua. I ain't talking Fina. When they kill my dog, I ain't hear shit from Peter. These niggas talk Kent, but they really mean FEMA. Haven't cut the eye, got more stripes than Adidas. If you ain't a bad bitch, then get the fuck off my penis. 1-2 step with a meat tree drip. Keep my circle tighter than my meat tree is. If I don't fuck with you, you a piece of shit. When I dip, you dip, we dip, we dip. This the type of shit that I sing to my bitch. No 6ix9ine, we don't sing no snitch. Gotta love that bass. Social distance, I love my space. Tell Karen, get the fuck out my face. We ain't never switching up on our race. You belong to me. It's you, baby. One more time. Gotta love that bass. Social distance, I love my space. Tell Karen, get the fuck out my face. We ain't never switching up on our race. 'Cause you belong to me. One more time for the ladies in the back, eh?
Oh no, you belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me. You belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me.
Where's he going with this shit?
Oh no, you belong to somebody new.
'Cause tonight you belong to me. I'm from One West headquarters. Follow my captain's orders. Live in the land of pain and torture. No straw, but they want they mortar. Tell Trump, fuck borders. P.S. Prepare for slaughter. Never take they sons and daughters. Never give them alls in return. Niggas never wanna learn. Till they laying in the urn. Babylon, Babylon, Babylon. You got to burn. Even if I gotta go with it. So fuck it, is you with it? Niggas never feel froggy, they just wanna rip it. If I see a bad bitch, then I gotta rip it. Your lip looking like the Red Sea when I split it. Tell me why that flow so vicious. Every time he switches, beat a nigga ass like mama did with switches. You niggas looking real, real gay. Where are the bitches? I mean, where are the sisters? Better stay away from witches. That's a brouhaha. Love me as she brew, yeah. White people, he brew now. If you didn't know, then you do now. You belong to me. Yeah. Alright. This nigga's bonkers. From the same city as the Knickerbockers. Name ring bells from here to Yonkers. Or Nicaragua. You niggas too thirsty, you need some agua. I ain't talking Fina. When they kill my dog, I ain't hear shit from Peter. These niggas talk Kent, but they really mean FEMA. Haven't cut the eye, got more stripes than Adidas. If you ain't a bad bitch, then get the fuck off my penis. 1-2 step with a meat tree drip. Keep my circle tighter than my meat tree is. If I don't fuck with you, you a piece of shit. When I dip, you dip, we dip, we dip. This the type of shit that I sing to my bitch. No 6ix9ine, we don't sing no snitch. Gotta love that bass. Social distance, I love my space. Tell Karen, get the fuck out my face. We ain't never switching up on our race. You belong to me. It's you, baby. One more time. Gotta love that bass. Social distance, I love my space. Tell Karen, get the fuck out my face. We ain't never switching up on our race. 'Cause You belong to me. One more time for the ladies in the back, eh?
Oh no, you belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me.
It's so soulful, so beautiful. You know what it is. So we came from the east, had to go to war just for me to find peace. Fuck the police, they got the mark of the beast. I'm on 125th, you can see me in the streets. Seen a nigga teach you, fell in love with a priest. And a rush for the bread like we ain't got yeast. Put studs on my garment, now I'm late to the feast. I'm a Wild West nigga, you can check the receipts. Ask me where I'm from, so we came from the
deprived
east.
of my innocence by shit I was exposed to. Everything I did I was supposed to. Suppose you was poor and living with the heat off. SSI paying bills, mama like how she gon' feed y'all? Couches we go to sleep on, bad water on stoves. Light bill overdue, it get cold, open the stove. Comcast get cut off and cutting it right back on. Noticed it coming home, notices on the door. 30 days till you big U-Hauls, Motel 6, stay a couple of days, move in with a family friend. Promises for the first to pay you back on the third. Search for another house, they put our shit on the curb. Never uttered a word, came from a broken home. Mama was never there, my pops was a rolling stone. Nothing was ever given, they say you get what you give. Had to go through what I went through, they give you
So
what I
we
lived.
came from the east, had to go to war just for me to find peace. Fuck the police, they got the mark of the beast. I'm on 125th, you can see me in the streets. Seen a nigga teach you, fell in love with a priest. And a rush for the bread like we ain't got yeast. Put studs on my garment, now I'm late to the feast. I'm a Wild West nigga, you can check the receipts. Ask me where I'm from, so we came from the east.
Now downtown Oakland, I'm just holding posts. I'ma do this shit forever, cause it's all I know. Yeah, I'm in this shit deep, I gotta hold my nose. Went and put on all black, yeah, I joined the code. At the table with wise men, I'm just taking notes. Fuck the beast, kill the body, but can't kill the soul. Get with your brothers, never leave and never break that oath. Hardest thing to do is go to him alone. Build a zone for my brick in like Craig did. UBK, look, I'm airy where the reds is. Same serpent in the garden, they just shed skin. Gotta go to war to find peace, yeah, that's real shit. I seen the Lord take his spirit from men, and without this brotherhood, I end up like them. Look, there's wisdom behind these battle scars. Circle small, cause ain't no telling what these cowards
So
on.
we came from the east, had to go to war just for me to find peace. Fuck the police, they got the mark of the beast. I'm on 125th, you can see me in the streets. Seen a nigga teach you, fell in love with a priest. And a rush for the bread like we ain't got yeast. Put studs on my garment, now I'm late to the feast. I'm a Wild West nigga, you can check the receipts. Ask me where I'm from, so we came from the east.
Leviticus 20 and 26, and ye shall be holy unto me, for I, the Lord, am holy, and have severed you from other people. God severed you, black man, from other people. You got no business joining the white man. You was brought here for slavery, now time of slavery is up. You're supposed to be in the ghetto helping black people. You're supposed to be getting them off of drugs, stopping the crime, re-educating them. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Instead, you a jungle monkey for the white man. Right. You march down 6th Street begging the white man for your own civil rights.
Came from the east.
White man hijacked your civil rights movement. You running down 6th Street begging him to be part of it. When God said, I separated you from other people, man. Why you think black people don't love each other? You gave all your love to the white man.
Well, it is, right?
That's why you can't love each other.
Well, it is.
White man looking at you like, what the hell is these black people's problem? Your problem is you done gave all your love to them. And you left none for your own. And let me tell you what else you do. You hate anybody that speak about your cause. Don't nobody, black people don't hate nobody more than a black man that speak on their behalf. They hate him the most. That's why you killed Christ. You killed Christ because Christ wanted to give you the kingdom of heaven. You said, oh, hell no. We sticking with the Romans. That's why it said in the Bible, you said, we have but one king, and Caesar is his name.
It's so soulful.
Shalom, shalom, Israel. Can everybody hear me all right? Can everybody hear me all right? Y'all let me know. Give me a 1 or 1 West in the chat. Barbara Quishar, if y'all can hear me okay. All right. All right, Most High in Christ. We got a couple 1 West. We at the ISUPK, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana, and we are not affiliated with any other Israelite group or any Christian organization. Tonight is Virginia's history class. All right, Virginia's history class. Before we get too far into that, seems like we got a few people in the building. I'm going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers. Shalom, Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shabbarakatham. And to the sisters, Shalom, Yahweh Shamar, Alathan, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. All right, let's see who we got in the building. See who we got in the building. Most High in Christ. All right. Let's see, we got my rib. Sister I is in the building. Shalom, sis. All right. Young man Edward is in the building. Shalom, Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shabbarakatah. My brother, Officer 500, Officer Yagadar is in the building. Shalom, Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shabbarakatah. All right. Aqua Tawabath is in the building. Shalom. Yahweh Shamar, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. All right. My daughter is also in the building. Shelly. All right. Shalom. Yahweh Shamar, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. Let's see. Got a few folks in the building. Most High in Christ. Aqua Amadah is in the building. Shalom, Yahweh Shamar, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. Aqua Hadass is in the building. Shalom, Yahweh Shamar, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. All right, and we got Sister Na in the building. Shalom, Yahweh Shamar, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. All right. Most High in Christ. I think we got a few more numbers and names, so make sure y'all check in with your name, city, and state. All right. Anybody who has not done so, we are going to get into this history class. Again, history is very, very important. We want to make sure that we are in these classes getting this information. Nobody's teaching the truth to our people the way it needs to be done, except for brothers in the ISUPK. All right, under Commanding General Yohana. If you are not in the ISUPK, you are not in the truth. All right, history is a very, very important part of our culture, knowing our history. And as we always, or often, I shouldn't say always, but as we often pull Deuteronomy 32:7, we're going to pull that right now. Okay, Deuteronomy 32:7. See if I can make this a little larger. It says, remember the days of old. Remember the days of old. Our old times past. We are supposed to remember our history. And often, again, as we often say, our history, particularly in this country, is so difficult. It's so painful. It's so horrific. It feels like a burden oftentimes, and because of that, we tend to have a negative disposition. Absolutely right. Give Sister I a hand. Remember the days of old. We tend to have a negative disposition at times with our history because it feels like a weight and a burden that we would rather not bear. And again, the problem with that is we end up losing so much of the information that absolutely matters, right? It absolutely matters. It matters not only for us to learn from what happened, to have perspective on it, to remember it, to make sure that our heritage, our culture is being carried on. And you have to remember the days of old. You have to have a connection to your history in order to be able to do that. But you also have to learn so that we don't make the same mistakes again that our ancestors and our forefathers made. Because as we covered a couple classes ago, we regenerate. or reincarnation. That is absolutely in the Bible. So what happens is the same mistakes that our forefathers had made, those were us making those same mistakes. So it's very important that we remember the days of old. And the scripture goes on, consider the years of many generations. And that word consider means understand. It means to understand, not just to ponder on, not just to think about, but to actually understand, get a perspective on what happened generations ago, get a perspective on how things went down and how they should have gone down, so that we would maybe be in a better place. Again, we are in this captivity called America, and that is a result of our history and our forefathers, again, making decisions and not following the law, statutes, and commandments that left us in this captivity. Scripture goes on, it says, ask thy father and he will show thee. This is something that in our culture or in our nation, in this captivity, we have lost because of the destruction of this this oppressor and how he destroys our families. But this makes it very, very clear the importance of a father in the home. All right, importance of a father as the leader of that family. It's very, very important for our fathers to be in place, so that and to have a perspective on our history, so we can, as fathers, so we can tell them these things to our children, and that continues on, so that history is not lost. All right. Scripture goes on. It says, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Again, we were always supposed to look at our elders, look to our fathers, to get a perspective on what our history is, have an understanding of it, so that and that's all part of our culture. All right. And our culture is something that absolutely matters. All right. And that's also why the ISUPK is here. Again, with the destruction of our families, we have become the elders that the Most High has put in place under commanding General Yohana to make sure that our nation has a perspective on what our history is. All right. Now, we are probably going to jump right into the topic. I think we got a fair amount of information we're going to go over. All right. But before we get too far into it, y'all seen the title, The Truth About Those 40 Acres and That Mule. All right. So if y'all know what I'm talking about, you often hear our people talking about 40 acres and a mule, 40 acres and a mule, 40 acres and a mule. So who can tell me what that's in reference to? Who can tell me what that is in reference to, that those 40 acres and that mule? Let's see. All right. Okay. Let's see. Sister Aya said reparations. All right. That is true. That is true. It was a part of what were to be reparations. Correct. Young man Edward, give both he and Sister Aya a hand. All right. Aqua Hamadah said the same thing. Reparations. All right. But how much do we know about how this was supposed to shake out? Everybody is correct. But when it talks about 40 acres and a mule, what does that mean? What was supposed to happen? Aqua Debar is in the building. Shalom Yahweh Shemal Athabah Hashem Yahweh Shai. What was supposed to happen with these 40 acres and this mule? Who has some perspective on that? No sweat. That is a very honest answer. Young man Edward, no sweat. We are going to get into it. But I want to get, and here's the deal. I don't think most of us know a lot of the details around it. And that's okay. That's okay. That's what these classes are for, right? And we're going to get into it. But a lot of us have some perspective on what it was to be. So let's figure out what that was, and then we can figure out how that compares to what we're about to learn. So let me ask maybe a few other questions. Who was supposed to get these 40 acres and a mule? Do we know who exactly was supposed to receive these? Ahmad said we were supposed to get land and a mule for our ancestors in regards to slavery. All right. That is true. All right. Sister Raya said freed slaves. Okay. Sister Na says former slaves. Exactly. Young man Edward says free slaves. Okay, so here's my question. Was it everybody? So for perspective, I'm skipping ahead just a little bit, but it's been estimated that once the Emancipation Proclamation was put in place and it actually started to, we started to actually be so-called free, there was an estimated 3.9 million of us that were coming out of chattel slavery. Also, Yagadar says slaves were supposed to get it. Keyword supposed to, exactly. But there was an estimated 3.9 million of us. So was that every single person? Because if so, that's a whole lot of land. That's a whole lot of land. I think I did the math. It was something like 1.5 million acres if you do that math. All right. Because if you're talking about 3.9 million people coming out of slavery, right, and everybody's supposed to get 40 acres, that's a whole lot of land. So do we think it was everyone? Right? And if not, then who was it for? Allegedly. No sweat. Sister Raya, that is here's the deal. Here's why I'm asking these questions. Sister Raya said, I never knew any more than the statement. And that is what most of our people, that's the perspective that most of our people have. All we knew is we're supposed to get 40 acres and a mule, 40 acres and a mule, 40 acres and a mule, right? There's no true perspective on how it came to be, how somebody, who even came up with this. Does anybody have any idea whose idea it was? Sister Amadah said direct descendants of former slaves. Actually, no, not quite. I wouldn't say the descendants, because this is something that was put in place almost immediately after the Civil War and during Reconstruction. Let me say it that way. During Reconstruction, it was something that was put in place then. Sister Anna says, right. I think you're saying that you're agreeing with Sister Raaya's point that she never knew more than that statement. I understand. So what we're going to find out is when we look into it. Young man ever said that was Lincoln's punk, but exactly. It was not. It was actually, well, we'll get into it. It was actually Black folks. We came up with this idea. Most High in Christ. I figured as much. Exactly. We came up with this, right? And here's an interesting point. And we're going to get into a couple articles, and of course, we're going to get into some scripture, right? But here's an interesting point. The Christian church as it is today in the Black community is almost nothing like it was when we were just coming out of slavery. When we were just coming out of slavery, we as a nation knew that we had a common enemy. We were united. We supported each other. We stood in our communities. Our families were together. As a nation, we were better off. Shortly thereafter, out of slavery, leading all the way up until integration. And what we're going to see is that even though these were, like I said, we came up with this idea. We came up with the 40 acres and a mule. We're going to get into how that played out. But there were a lot of preachers involved who knew that we needed to be a holy people. And what does holy mean? Who can tell me? Who can tell me what holy means? I know y'all know, but who can tell me what holy means? Who can tell me what holy means? Absolutely. All right, young man Edward is correct. Give him a hand. Separate. Separate. Sister Aya is also correct. Give her a hand. Separate. Let's see. Sister Na is correct. Give her a hand. Separate. To be separate. Akwatawabat, correct. Separate. Sister Hadassah, correct. Separate. So baby cake's not quite clean, and I understand, and this is why it's so important for you all to be in these classes and make sure you are getting the actual truth. Now, to her point, clean. What else might the Christian church say? Clean is probably a good one at the Christian church. If you're holy, that means you're clean. That means you're special. That means, what else might it mean in the Christian church? Holy. Holy means a lot of things in the Christian church that are absolutely wrong. All right. Now, and y'all just put something in the chat as I continue to keep going. All right. Here's another piece of this, right? We all know it means separate. But when we go into the dictionary, there's a different definition for the word holy. There's a different definition for the word holy. It doesn't say separate. So we're going to walk down this path real quick just to make sure we understand how we're getting here. Because somebody else might say, well, that's not what it says in the dictionary, right? There you go. Sanctified, they'll use that word. They don't even know what it means either. They don't know what it means either. Anointed, right? Right? They'll use that word, not understanding what it means as well. But between Shelly and Sister Anna hit it on the head as well. You are a part of the church. Just being a part of the church makes you holy in their mind. It's just all spooky and special. And you here, so you holy, you know. So let's go into the actual definition. So we're going to go into Webster's definition, and then we're going to go into the Blue Letter Bible to get the definition of the word in Hebrew, which is always important to know that just because these things are written in English, some of them translate well, some of these words did not. All right. And it is always important to make sure we understand which is which. Because the definition in Merriam is there it is. Right. Oh, see, I said saved and filled with the Holy Spirit. Well, the sanctified holy rollers, all type of stuff they say. They got a speech for everything, right? All of those will be the Christian definitions of it, and they're wrong. Let's see. Shelley said you would be definitely sent to heaven if you go to church. That's what the Christian church believes. They believe if you go to church and pay tithes, then everything is fine. And you can do everything wicked under the sun, and it does not matter. And you'll go to some magical place up in the clouds when you pass away. That's what the Christian church believes, and that is all wrong. It is complete lies. All right. The Christian church will lead our people to believe that they can do anything and just apologize to Jesus, and now it's okay. And that's incorrect. That is incorrect. All right, so let's get this definition first, and then we'll kind of walk back. That is really small. So let me see. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. I don't know what. Hold on. I think I got an ad up here I need to get rid of. Y'all bear with me. So let me see. Yes, let me get rid of that. And it's still up here. I don't want any of it. Oh, goodness. All right, no sweat. We're going to figure this out. Y'all bear with me. I just closed the window. Good night. Y'all know how I am. Y'all know what happens. It's a lot. I have everything set up, then I hit a button and everything just went left. All right. Everything go. Good night. All right, let me pull back up the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. All right, holy. Come on. All right, hopefully y'all can see this. Let me see. May have to just make it the large screen. We'll figure it out. All right. Exalted or worthy of complete devotion as one perfect in goodness and righteousness. That sounds wonderful. That don't say anything about being separate. All right. That doesn't say a thing about anybody being separate. Let's see what the next one. Divine. Divine. For the Lord our God is holy. That sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Devoted entirely to the deity or the work of the deity. That sounds wonderful. A holy temple, holy prophets. It's just special. It's about God. Having a divine quality, holy love. That's divine, is like that's of the Lord. That's beautiful, right? Venerated as if sacred. Okay, holy scripture. That means it's sacred. It means it's special. Don't say nothing about being separate, right? And then you can use it as an intensive. You say this is a holy mess. This is none of this is correct. This all is similar to what you all were saying. It all feels like some Christianity stuff, and that's incorrect. So how do we find out the actual truth? We are going to go obviously into the Blue Letter Bible. We're going to go into the Blue Letter Bible. We're going to go to Exodus 3 and 5 in the Blue Letter Bible. And let's share this real quick. All right, Exodus. Let me skip forward. There we go. Next chapter. Next chapter. Exodus 3 and 5. It says, and he said, draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thy standest is holy ground. And if without looking these things up, that sounds like it might be right. This is when the Most High appeared in the glory of the Most High appeared in the burning bush to Moses, and he was telling him to take his shoes off. That all sounds like, oh, that might be right. That's just some magical, holy. The Lord is wonderful. That all sounds nice, and you could, without looking this up, that Christianity might sound like it's right. Who can tell me what the word for holy is before I get to it? Who can put it in the chat? Who can tell me what the word for holy is? What is the word for holy? Let me get rid of my label. Absolutely. Most High in Christ. Brother Krishad's in the building. Shalom. Yahweh Shem Shabrakatah. All right. Y'all are absolutely right. Give Aqua Tawabath a hand. Quadash is correct. Young man Egg with a hand. Quadash is correct. Aqua Amadah. Quadash. Correct. Absolutely. Sister Aya is correct. Y'all give her a hand. Quadash. Sister Nas correct. Quadash. Hey, listen. Oh, see, I can tell you, they were not playing. Y'all give yourselves a hand. Absolutely. We Most High in Christ. They click on it. Damn right. And Brother Kushai is correct. It does mean separate. But we were definitely looking for the Hebrew, and y'all were all on it as usual. Quadash. And here we are. Quadash means holy. Let's find out what the definition of holy actually is. All right. We'll go to the root, which is also Quadash, but we'll make sure we get all the way drilled down. Outline of biblical usage. What does it mean? To be set apart, to be consecrated. And this is important to be able to know this. Because if someone I just caught it. Most High in Christ. Hebrew squares. Absolutely. Y'all be on Hebrew squares faithfully every week. And it's showing. It's definitely showing. But it's important to know this, because if you're having a conversation with somebody and you tell them that, especially if they're Christian, and you tell them that holy means separate, they're going to go straight to a dictionary and tell you you're wrong. And then you're going to have to be able to tell them, no, you're wrong, because when you go into the Hebrew, this is exactly what it means. So absolutely, to sanctify, prepare, be hallowed, right? But to be set apart, consecrated, to show oneself sacred. There it is, to be set apart as sacred, consecrated, holy, observed, to be sacred, so on and so forth, right? To be set apart. We see it over and over again, to keep oneself apart or separate. So we all know this, right? So the spirit behind, and we're going to get into one of these articles now, but the spirit behind 40 Acres and a Mule, we're going to see, was absolutely holy. All right. We're going to see this was absolutely holy. All right. This article, it says the truth behind 40 Acres and a Mule. It says we all heard the story of 40 Acres and a Mule promised to former slaves. We all heard that. That's what y'all was saying. You always heard it, hadn't heard a lot about it, other than that, right? It says it's a staple of Black history lessons, and it's the name of Spike Lee's film company. The promise was the first systematic attempt to provide a form of reparations, as you all said, a form of reparations to newly freed slaves, and it was astonishingly radical for its time, proto-socialist in its implication, proto-socialist in its implications. In fact, such a policy would be radical in any country today. The federal government's massive confiscation of private property, some 400,000 acres, formerly owned by Confederate landowners, and its methodical redistribution to former Black slaves. So let's stop right there for a second. Right? It said 40,000 acres is what fell under this 40 Acres and a Mule. Now, we just said there was 3.9 million slaves. 400,000 acres ain't enough, right? It's not enough. So anybody have any guess as to why the difference is? Why is it that it was only 400,000 acres when there were so many of us who were coming out of chattel slavery? I mean, at that, I mean, you're talking about 3.9 million brothers and sisters. Nobody's getting an acre. You're not getting a half an acre over 400,000 acres. You're not getting everything. You're not getting a half acre. You're going to get a fraction of something. You don't need a mule. Everybody doesn't need a mule at that point because we don't have enough land. So is there any guesses out there as to why the discrepancy at all? Because, and this goes, and I'll give y'all a hint, and we're going to get into it in the article, but I'll give you a hint. It goes back to this question of who exactly was supposed to get these 40 acres and a mule. Because our people think everybody was supposed to get it. We think at some point that was a thing, and they didn't make good on it. We didn't get it, and this is why all of us are in this state now. We're in this state from some of the things that this oppressor did. It's just not this specifically, and it's important to know that, right? So while y'all are answering that, we're gonna get back to the article. But it's only 400,000 acres. All right, 400,000 acres doesn't seem like enough, nearly enough at all. It says what most of us haven't heard is that the idea really was generated by Black leaders themselves. This was something that we came up with. That is something that I never even imagined. I thought it was just another so-called policy, so-called plan that they had, and they just reneged on it, which is also true. It is true, but this was our doing. All right. It says it's difficult to stress adequately how revolutionary this idea was, as the historian Eric Foner puts it in his book, Reconstruction: America's Unfinished Revolution. It says here in coastal South Carolina and Georgia, the prospect beckoned of the transformation of Southern society more radical even than the end of slavery. Now, it says here, try to imagine how profoundly different the history of race, so-called race relations in the United States would have been had this policy been implemented and enforced. Had the former slaves actually had access to the ownership of land, of property, if they had a chance to be self-sufficient economically, to build, accrue, and pass on wealth. Here's the sad part. We did have that opportunity, and they took it from us over and over and over and over again. We took the opportunity. They didn't give it to us, meaning we set up our communities. We naturally did that coming out of slavery. We got together, we set up our communities. The whole economic, we have to, that's a lot of talk that's going on now. We have to get our economics right. Our dollar needs to circulate in the Black community. That happened. That happened over and over and over again. We did a class on that. All these different communities that this oppressor went and destroyed purposefully, that we were thriving in. This was another one. This was another one. That's what we're going to find out. It says, after all, one of the principal promises of America was the possibility of average people being able to own land. Now, we all know those average people were not talking about Blacks, Latinos, or Native Americans. That was only talking about white people. That's the only average people that is really that the promise, so-called promise of America pertains to. All right. Being able to own land and all that such ownership entailed. As we know all too well, the promise was not able to be realized for the overwhelming majority of the nation's former slaves, who numbered about 3.9 million. That's where that came from. All right. So what exactly was promised? So now we get into some details, right? Because we have been taught in school that the source of the policy of 40 acres and a mule was Union General. They never got into this when I was in school. It's lucky. But the Union General William T. Sherman's Special Field Order number 15, issued on January 16, 1865. Says that account is half right. Sherman prescribed 40 acres in that order, but not the mule. The mule would come later. The actual order right, was only for 40 acres. It says, but what many accounts leave out is that this idea for massive land redistribution actually was the result of a discussion that Sherman and the Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton, held 4 days before Sherman issued the order, with 20, hopefully that's still up there, shifted, with 20 leaders of the Black community in Savannah, Georgia, where Sherman was headquartered following his famous March to the Sea. The meeting was unprecedented in American history. So what you're saying here is that they got with 20 leaders of the community, and we're going to find out a good amount of them were preachers that had a better spirit at the time than these preachers do now. It says today, we commonly use the phrase 40 acres and a mule, but few of us have read the order itself. 3 parts were relevant. It's like it. 3 parts are relevant here. Section 1 bears repeating in full. So there's three sections to this. So section 1 says the islands of Charleston South, the abandoned rice fields along the rivers for 30 miles back from the sea, and the country bordering the St. Johns River, Florida, are reserved and set apart for the settlement of Negroes, now made free by the acts of war and the proclamation of the President of the United States. What is that describing? Who can tell me what that is describing? What did that just say? Maybe that's another way I can ask it. Let's see. Matter of fact, I'll read it again. It says the islands from Charleston South, the abandoned rice fields along the rivers for 30 miles back from the sea, and the country bordering St. Johns River, Florida, are reserved and set apart for the settlement of Negroes, now made free by the acts of war and the proclamation of the United States. It's like, all right, let's see. I'm not sure what you were trying to say, Akwal Amada. You got 22. I'm not sure what that means. Salakia. And I think maybe you hit enter too soon on the second comment. No, sir. no problem at all. I understand. All right. So what is this describing? Mr. Eyes is correct. Y'all give her a hand. It was only for select areas. So this was after the Emancipation Proclamation. This was an attempt. This was an attempt at reparations for slavery. This was essentially the first attempt at reparations. All right. And what they said was they're going to issue 40 acres. Well, we're going to get to the second part of that in a second. But this was separate from the Emancipation Proclamation. All right. But going back to Sister Aya, she's absolutely correct. This is describing an area, a geographic area. All right. So that 400,000 acres that we talked about earlier was only in a specific area. And it's well, I won't say too much. We'll keep going. All right. Section 2 specifies that these new communities, moreover, and here's where y'all can get it, moreover, will be governed entirely by Black people themselves. On the islands and in the settlements hereafter, this is a quote, on the islands and in the settlements hereafter to be established, no white person whatever, unless military officers and soldiers detailed for duty, will be permitted to reside, and the sole and exclusive management of affairs will be left to the freed people themselves. By the laws of war and orders of the President of the United States, the Negro is free and must be dealt with as such. So here's what this is saying. We are going to have our own land. There's 400,000 acres. It's going to be set apart. It's a very specific area, right? No other person, no white people, essentially, that's what it said, can come live on our land. We have to govern ourselves, and we are free and going to be treated as such. That is separate. That is being separate. That's what this was supposed to do. It's bigger than just you were supposed to have 40 acres. We were supposed to have our own area. Now, it's not everybody, though. It's not everybody, but it would have been a great start. And that goes back to what Officer Yagadar supposed is the key word, supposed to. All right. And we're going to see what happened. All right. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a good shot. That was a good shot. All right. And then finally, so this is the third part. It says finally, Section 3 specifies the allocation of land. Each family shall have a plot of not more than 40 acres of tillable ground. And when it borders on some water channel with not more than 800 feet waterfront, in the possession of which land, the military authorities will afford them protection until such time that they can protect themselves or until Congress shall regulate their title. So this is just specifying very, very clearly, each family was supposed to get 40 acres. And again, these are some of these nuances that we don't know. The larger point that they reneged on all of this, we do know. But the details matter. And you're going to see how the details matter in the second article. All right. So we got three things here. We got a very specific area. We got that we're going to be by ourselves, governing by ourselves, right? And we have how it's going to be allocated as far as families are concerned, how it relates to water channels, so on and so forth, and the protection that we're going to get. This all sounds awesome. This all sounds appropriate, given that we had just gotten out of 400 years of slavery, 300 years of slavery, right? It says with this order, 400,000 acres of land, a strip of coastal, a strip of coastline stretching from Charleston, South Carolina, to the St. Johns River in Florida, including Georgia Sea Islands and the mainland 30 miles in from the coast, as Bart Myers reports, would be redistributed to the newly freed slaves. The extent of this order is large, and its larger implications are mind-boggling, actually, because you have to think the idea was to carve out. I mean, that's a ton of land. So again, it's 400,000 acres. You're going to carve this out and give it to people as you should have. As you should have. But let's keep going. It says, who came up with the idea? Here's how this radical proposal, which must have completely blown the minds of the rebel Confederates, actually came about. The abolitionists Charles Sumner and Thaddeus Stevens and other radical Republicans have been actively advocating land redistribution to break the back of Southern slaveholders' power, as Myers observed. So let's stop right there. Let's stop right there, because this sounds wonderful and it's appropriate and it's what should happen. It should happen on it should have happened on an even larger scale. What was the purpose, though? Who can tell me what the purpose is that we just read? Let's see if we can actually see the truth in this, because it seems like it's right. It seems upstanding. It seems just, right? It seems like everything that should happen. Not as large, but it would have been a great start. But why? Why was this something that needed to be done? We came up with the how. We're going to get to that later, but this is an idea that they had already been playing with. Let's see who's going to get it. Let's see who's going to catch it. Matter of fact, let me read it again. It says the abolitionists Charles Sumner and Thaddeus Stevens and other radical Republicans had been actively advocating land distribution to, quote, break the back of Southern slaveholders' power. The whole purpose, once again, as we always say with Lincoln, it wasn't because he just thought it was the right thing to do that the Emancipation Proclamation came about. That's not what it was. It was another pawn in their political battle. It was a pawn in the Civil War. We were used to then break them down, break the South down. We were used as pawns for the North. This is the same thing. This land redistribution was meant to break down the South. Absolutely correct. Y'all are right. Give Yagadar a hand. It was a political move. This was another political move. Would it have been awesome and amazing? Probably. But we still have to be mindful that this is our enemy. This was not some grand thing that they were just, you know what, y'all deserve this wonderful stuff and we're just on that. No, this was still political. They wanted to press the former slave owners, exactly. Absolutely right. Y'all are giving all correct answers. To even the economic playing field of southern and northern states, exactly. They wanted to take power away from the South. That's all this was about. That's all this was about. And it's important to keep that in mind. All right. This is not some, wonderful favor that they were looking to do. This was nope. We gotta destroy them, as it says, to break the back of Southern slaveholders. All right. All right. It says, but Sherman's plan only took shape after the meeting that he had, that he and Stanton held with those black ministers at 8 p.m. January 12th on the second floor of the Charles Green's mansion, on Savannah's Macon Street. And its broadest stroke, 40 acres and a mule, was their idea. All right. It says, Staunton, aware of the great historical significance of the meeting, presented. I don't need to read that. That's just. I'll read it anyway. Presented Henry Ward Beecher a verbatim transcript of the discussion, which Beecher read to his congregation at New York's Plymouth Church, in which the New York Daily Tribune printed in full in its February 13, 1865 edition. So this was so important. They had an actual transcript of the entire meeting and they printed it out. Absolutely give Sister Anai. Never trust thine enemy. Correct. Even if you're able to get something, even if you're able to benefit from it, we have to still be worthy because these are our enemies. I said worthy. So like we have to be worried. We have to be aware because these are our enemies. All right. So Staunton told Beecher that for the first time in history of this nation, the representatives of the government had gone to these poor, debased people to ask them what they wanted for themselves. Now that is another a big deal. At this point, there was a discussion. What do you all want? And this is the thing that that affects us now. We don't have, unless you're in the ISUPK, you don't have a perspective. We don't have a collective idea. We don't have it in this. All this getting into politics and you got to vote and all of that. One of the reasons it doesn't work for us is because we don't have, and we're not unified. We're not requiring anything of them. We're just begging for love. We're begging for help. We're begging and begging and begging, and we're not requiring anything. And this was one of the first times that they were like, you know what? Let's just ask them what they want. And again, we're going to see the spirit of the Most High. We were so much closer then than we are now. All right. Stanton has suggested to Sherman that they gather the leaders of local Negro community and ask them something no one else had apparently thought to ask. What do you want for your own people following the war? And what they wanted astonishes us even today. Now, I don't know why it astonishes them, because what do they want? We're going to see. They wanted some land, clearly. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. There was no good intention in this. This was a pawn. This was a play. This was a strategic move. It wasn't because they were just so, you know what, they were so apologetic for slavery. That's not what this was. And it's important to know that. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Says, who are these? And we're walking somewhere. We're walking somewhere real current. So, Lockie, how much time? Oh, we got plenty of time. All right. Who were these 20 thoughtful leaders who exhibited such foresight? They were all ministers, mostly Baptists and Methodists. Most curious of all is that 11 of the 20 were born free in slave states, of which 10 had lived as free men in the Confederacy during the course of the Civil War. The other one, a man named James Lynch, was born free in Maryland, a slave state, and had only moved to the South 2 years before. The other 9 ministers had been slaves in the South who became contraband and hence free only because of the Emancipation Proclamation when Union forces liberated them. So this is just saying the 20 preachers that were there, 11 of them were free, and the rest were actually had been slaves at some point. All right. Says the chosen leader was a spokesman, a Baptist minister named Garrison Frazier, age 67, who had been born in Granville, North Carolina. He was a slave until 1857. He brought his freedom for himself and his wife. Slovakia, trying to skim here real quick. He had 12. Yeah, there were 12 questions that were asked, and the stakes were pretty high. That's what it says. Okay, now here it is. And Frazier and his brothers did not disappoint. What did they tell Sherman and Stanton, the Negroes, most wanted? Land, right? This is a quote, the way we can best take care of ourselves. Reverend Frazier began his answer to the crucial third question is to have land and turn it and till it by our own labor. And as soon we can soon maintain ourselves and have something to spare. Meaning we'll be fine. We'll even grow. We'll have more, right? We want to be placed on land where we are able to buy it and make it our own. And here's where the real key comes in, because clearly that makes perfect sense. I don't even know why this person said they're astonished. Of course we want land, right? But here's where it goes deeper. It says that when asked next where the free slaves would rather live, whether scattered among the whites or in colonies by themselves, without missing a beat, both Frazier and his, as the transcript calls him, Brother Frazier, so like as the transcript calls him, replied that I would prefer to live by ourselves, for there is a prejudice against us in the South that will take years to get over. He was like, nah, we need to be by ourselves. Now, he's not quite there, but he's damn sure closer than these preachers are now. He's closer than they are now, because even the second half of the answer is too much prejudice. It's going to take years to get over. So you eventually want to be, with him, it sounds like. But at least right now, We need to be by ourselves and away from this enemy. All right, let me see. Young man Edwards said, what did you say? Maryland was a slave state? Yes. I never knew that. I thought it cut off in Virginia. Oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Maryland was a slave state as well. The only difference is Maryland did not secede. Virginia seceded and became, the Confederate states, and that's why they were part of the, they were the other side of the war. You had the Union and the Confederacy, but Maryland was absolutely a slave state, and Juneteenth, as much as we celebrate it, well, not we, but as much as the world, as much as we as Black people want to acknowledge it, right? There were still slaves in Maryland after those slaves in Texas were told that they were free, because the Emancipation Proclamation only applied to the Confederacy. It did not apply to the Union states that had slaves and did not secede. So they didn't get their freedom until like another 6 months or something like that after, once the 13th Amendment was actually passed and all that. But I think it's Delaware was another one. I have to go back in my notes to get all the states. But it was, I think, 5 states that continued to hold slaves, and Maryland was definitely one of them. Absolutely. All right. The brother said he wanted to be by ourselves, right? Which is, again, that is holy. He wanted to be separate. That is appropriate. It says, when polled individually around the table, all but one, James Lynch, who was 26, the man who moved south from Baltimore, said that he agreed with Frazier. Everybody else agreed, yes, we need to be by ourselves. That 4 days later, that was issued. Oh, no sweat. I am the bar. Damn right. All right. So then we're going to see how this played out, because we know it didn't work, right? It says the response to the order was immediate. When the transcript of the meeting was reprinted in the Black publication Christian Recorder, an editorial note in tone that from this, it will be seen that the colored people down south are not so dumb as they suppose them to be, reflecting North and South slave-free Black class tensions that continue well into the modern civil rights movement. The effect throughout the South was electric, as Eric Forner explains. Quote, the freedmen hastened to take advantage of the order. Baptist minister Ulysses Houston, one of the group that had met with Sherman, led 1,000 Blacks to Skidaway Island in Georgia. Y'all remember that. We're going to get back to Skidaway Island in a second. All right. Where they established a self-governing community with Houston as the quote unquote Black governor. And by June, 40,000 freedmen had settled on 400,000 acres of Sherman land. By the way, Sherman later ordered that the army could lend the new settlers mules, hence the phrase 40 acres in a mule, because it really wasn't part of the order. But later on, it became part of it. All right. It says, and what happened, let me see. Why are our representatives always pastors? That's a great question. That is a great question. And there was a time where that was okay. There was a time when you had this type of leadership saying, no, we need to be by ourselves, building our communities, dealing with our people as we are, building up our lands, building up our houses, farming our own lands, being self-sufficient. That's being holy, being separate. We don't need y'all. Give us the land and leave us alone. But at that point, that wasn't horrible leadership. Let me say it that way. But why is it always the pastors? Listen. This is just me. I don't know if it's UPK. I don't think I've ever heard a general say this. This is my opinion. It's just Tazakara. Because we have a zeal for the Lord, but not according to knowledge. We want to do the right thing. We want to we have a zeal for the Lord. It's just not according to knowledge. So when the man of the Lord, when the preacher's there, then yeah, that's who I'm gonna follow. We have brothers and sisters in here that were in the Christian church. I was myself. And I believed I was doing the right thing because that's what I had been told. And I wanted to be doing the right thing by the Most High. I just found out when I saw ISUPK, no, I wasn't. I'm absolutely wrong. But that's why we end up following these leaders, because of these pastors, these preachers, because our people naturally have a zeal for the Most High. It's just not according to knowledge. So we're going to follow the man. We want to believe everything they're saying is true. And that's why it becomes hard sometimes when we're talking to Christians, especially black folks. Our people, it's difficult to get our people to see that the Christian church is horrible. You talk to anyone, listen, they'll start off saying how they're a Christian, and oftentimes they'll start off saying how they're a Christian, and they don't know, no, that can't be right. God loves everybody, so on and so forth. You get two scriptures in, well, I don't know that much about the Bible. I'm not that well versed in it. Well, why do you believe it so much? Because they have that zeal, and there's a part of them that's just lustful and want to do everything they want to do, and the Christian church allows that as well. But at that point, it wasn't the same type of pastors that's in these churches now, if that kind of makes sense. All right. We'll start back from the top of this. Absolutely, Shelly. Start from the top of this paragraph. It says, and what happened to this astonishingly visionary program, which would have fundamentally altered the course of American race relations? Andrew Johnson, Lincoln's successor and a sympathizer with the South, overturned the order in the fall of 1865. This did not make it 12 months. This did not make it 12 months. The order was issued in January. And in the fall of 1865, he overturned it. It says, and as Bart Meyer sadly concludes, returned the land along the South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida coast to the planters who had originally owned it. Now, this says planters. We know what this really is. Slave owners. To the very people, and here's the kicker, to the very people who had declared war on the United States of America. Sidebar. It's always funny to me that this oppressor can be the most patriotic for his country, right? And at the same time, say there's all this heritage in the Confederate flag, and be proud of his ancestors for going against his same country. They declared war on the country. And if you're so patriotic, how are you okay with your grandparents having done that? Young man would say, I think it's because school and church was the same entity at one point. That's a very good point. So they felt the pastors were educators and most fit to speak on our behalf. That's probably some truth to that. Give that brother a hand. Absolutely. All right, so where do I want to go next? How much time we got? We got a little bit of time. Being holy, right? This is something that could have been wonderful for our people. And the reason the Bible calls us to be holy, to be separate, right? What does that mean, though, effectively? What does that mean for us today, effectively? How are we holy and separate? Who can give me some examples of how we do that today, particularly in this captivity? How can we be holy? Deuteronomy 7 and 6. While y'all are putting those ideas in the chat, right? Deuteronomy 7 and 6 says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Most High thy power." All right. We are holy. We are separate to the Most High. The Most High thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself. We are supposed to be, we are special to the Most High. We are different. We are not like every other nation to the Most High. We are his favorite. It's very, very simple, right? It says, above all people that are upon the face of the earth, above all other nations. If you are not a so-called Black, Latino, or Native American, if you are not an Israelite, you are not special to the Most High. You're just not. And that's okay. It's okay. Because if we were in charge the way we should be, then guess what would happen? You would reap the benefits. These other nations would still get the benefits of us being in charge, as opposed to what happens now, where even the animals hate this oppressor being in charge. The environment hates this oppressor being in charge. But we were supposed to be holy. All right. Yeah, man, well, give me a little bit more. Separate from the heathen. How? What does that mean? Give me a little bit more. Give me a little bit more. Are we supposed to collectively go what, buy some land and leave? Like how do we do that? What does that look like? Right? Deuteronomy 26 and 18 we're going to pull. (26 and 18). Says, and the Most High have avouched thee this day to be his peculiar people. We're supposed to be his peculiar people. We're peculiar people to the Lord, though, for him, right? As he hath promised thee. He promised this to us. And that thou should keepeth his commandments. That was the deal. He's our power as long as we keep the commandments. He got our back as long as we keep the commandments. Verse 19. And to make thee above, and to make thee high above all nations with which he hath made. All these nations were supposed to be above him, and all we got to do is follow the law, statutes, and commandments. Why? Because we're his favorite. That's why. In praise and in name and in honor. And that thou mayest be an holy people unto the Most High thy power, as he hath spoken. That's what we're supposed to be. Separate to the Most High. So what does that look like? What does that look like? Young man ever said separate from the heathen. Give me a little bit more on that. Akwathana said, being in the ISUPK, the only home of the truth, learning who you are and following the law, statutes, and commandments. Y'all give her a hand. I don't know if there's a more complete answer out there. Y'all give her a hand. That is absolutely correct. Following the laws. That is absolutely correct. Give me a little bit more. I mean, Sister Nog had a solid, complete answer, but y'all give me a little bit more. Yes. Ephraim Brown Yasha Allah. All right. Let's see. He got, oh, I got you. Jeremiah 10 and 2. That is absolutely right. Let's pull that. Let's pull that. Jeremiah 10 and 2. This is another good one. But here's what I'm looking for. I want some specifics, right? Give me some examples. I get everybody's answering correctly. Everybody is answering correctly, but give me some examples of how we separate. Following the laws is correct. Let's see. Young man Edward said, by not marrying heathen women. That is correct. By not marrying outside of your nation. If they are not so-called Black, Latino, or Native American, leave them alone. They are not your people. That is definitely one way, by sticking to your family. Absolutely correct. Sister Aya says, build the school and gain the knowledge to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. That's true. That's true. That's true. All right. Shelley said, following the Most High. That is also true. Give me another specific, kind of like a young man Edward did. He gave something very, very specific that we can do. Right? Even when we're following the law, statutes, and commandments, there's a certain separation that happens. Give me some examples of those. How we separate once we start following the law, statutes, and commandments. Jeremiah 10:2. There's a brother Ephraim pulled. There we go. Now I'm starting to see a couple of them. Jeremiah 10:2. Thus saith the Most High, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. We should not be learning their ways. Anybody did that? Those are other nations and other cultures, and they're not ours. Our culture and our history and our heritage is in this book. It's in the Bible. If it's outside of that, it's probably another nation and something that we should not be following. That is a perfect precept. So, like, I'll get that brother a hand. Let me see. Fellowship with your nation. That's true. Let me see. I think I got some. Right. Not going to church. Correct. Correct. That is how you separate from this heathen, because Christianity is basically a pagan religion, right? They got three gods in one, and somebody's a schizophrenic, and they celebrate Easter and Christmas and all these other holidays that have their roots in other gods. All of them have their roots in other gods, right? So that's basically a pagan religion. You stay out of the church. That's how you separate. That's one way to separate. Absolutely right. Not celebrating holidays, correct, because so many of these holidays have pagan roots. Absolutely. That's how we separate, even when we're still here in captivity. We separate from that by not participating in it. They having something at your slavery, right? On your job, your slavery, they having something that, I don't know, for, of course, they're going to have a Christmas luncheon, a Christmas party. No, just don't go. No, I'm not coming. Oh, it's a luncheon? I brought my lunch. As a matter of fact, I got to run an errand. I'm not participating. That's how we get away. That's how we separate. That's how we maintain and become holy, by breaking away from these other nations and their practices and their feast days and their holidays. Correct. Participate in the holy feast days. Correct. That goes back to what Sister Anna and Sister Aya said, coming into the ISUPK, getting into the truth, so that you can actually start participating in following and celebrating the feast days that are in the Bible, which is your culture, which is your heritage. It's not someone else's. It's not another nation's. It's yours. You separate from the other nations and focus on yours. Absolutely correct. Not voting or celebrating the holidays, the ways of the oppressor. Correct. Voting is a big one. Absolutely. Y'all give her a hand. Ephraim said the same thing. Do not vote. Correct. That is absolutely correct. And that's going to be a big one. That is a big one right now. Now, listen, I'm not voting, but I am being entertained. I'm so entertained. I'm so entertained by this. I don't know if anybody, obviously, y'all mentioned it before, but listen, that debate, woo! And we all know, most of our people, most black people, they're quote unquote Democrats, and they love Joe Biden. Joe Biden looked horrible on that stage. Salaki, he looked horrible. I mean, I don't know if he could have looked worse. He I mean, losing his train of thought in the middle of, when I tell you I was here just as giddy and laughing, it was so hilarious to me. I was waiting for it, and I was a little disappointed in Trump because I wanted him to act a fool too. But Salaki, I was on sidebar. But do not vote. That's going to be a big thing this year. Our people get so focused on the presidential election. and you gotta vote because your ancestors died for your right to vote and blah, 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 blah. None of this has helped our people. None of this has helped our people. We continue to be pawns for their political moves, or they're just out to destroy our communities and our nation. It does not matter which side and who you vote for. We get the same thing in return. Joe Biden is the same person. As much as our people want to vote for him and support him, he's the same person that I think he authored the 94 crime bill, which was a 3 strikes bill, which locked up so many brothers. He called them predators and said it did not matter. He acknowledged the fact that the country and the government put our people in these situations, and then said it did not matter. Even with that, it did not matter. They need to be punished. That was basically his message. And now Black people love him to death. It makes absolutely no sense, and it's the proof that it doesn't matter whether you call yourself a Democrat or Republican. If you're not following the law, statutes, and commandments, you're doing nothing for your people. You're doing absolutely nothing for your people. Let's see. Do not sit at the lunch table with them. Go pray outside. Right. If it's something, if it's about a holy holiday that they're doing, no, go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. Young man Edward said, I told my job I have no problem working Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Exactly. And I think a lot of places are going to give you double pay anyway. Go get that paper. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Avoid particular and specific conversations that could be unfruitful. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Give me a little bit more. I'm not sure what you mean. It's not like Trump didn't lie constantly. They all lie. That's what they do. That's what politics is. And again, this is why, listen, it's just entertainment to me because I'm not going out there voting for any of them anyway. But it's hilarious. Because again, Joe Biden signed the crime bill. He calling everybody predators. He don't even speak on that no more. So it's not exactly a lie, but he's not exactly being forthcoming with it either. That's all their business, though. That's the other deal. That's all their business. And it's kind of funny to me that Donald Trump lied because Donald Trump does not care what he says. He absolutely does not care, which is why I was a little disappointed. I thought he was going to get up there and act a fool and yell when they cut his mic off. I thought it was going to be fully entertaining. But he held his composure a little more than I wanted him to. I wanted him, lies or no lies, I wanted him to give me a show. I wanted to be completely entertained. They are Hydra and Legion. They're the devil the Bible speaks of. I mean, that is true. Not sure about those specific ones. I don't know if I would say that. All right, let's see. All right, we're going to keep going. Where are we? What time we got? Try to get to these scriptures. All right. Here's an example, right? There was an example. You think about what those pastors and preachers said. We want to be by ourselves. Is there an example in the Bible where something similar happened? Who can tell me an example in the Bible where something similar happened to that? A time where we made a decision to be by ourselves. All right, a brother says, sometimes certain of them will ask me specific questions concerning prophecy and things to come, to only then spew their understanding on me like it's the truth. I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you always want to be careful getting into too much of a back and forth with some of these oppressors, especially if you're on your slavery. One thing Captain Zayak says often, we have to learn that just like as much as we know these people despise us, right? They come into the job. They ask you about your weekend. They talk to you about football games. They do all of that. Now, you're going to be 15 inbounds before they get home, right? But they don't, they carry it how they carry it. And we would do, it would be a good thing for us to understand. Again, that's being wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. We don't have to engage with these people. And there are times, especially if you are not fully locked into the truth and have some time and experience on your side, it's actually discouraged, because these captains and these generals are very strategic in how they address things. And when you are young in the truth, it might seem like a right thing to do, but it might have dire consequences for you, because again, we are in captivity, right? So there's a time and a place for everything. And again, we're talking about how to separate ourselves, right? There's a time to engage. When we're at camp and they come up against the camp, that's a different scenario. And you listen, if you haven't seen some of these captains, if you haven't seen some of these videos of the UPK, they get absolutely destroyed when they come up against the camp. But again, separating does not necessarily require the back and forth. All right, if that kind of makes sense. Absolutely right. Give Shelly a hand. Not celebrating your birthday is another one. That's how you separate. That's how we separate. And give Officer Yagadar a hand. Goshen is exactly what I was thinking about. And if anybody's not familiar, we're gonna go to it right now. We're gonna start. Let me see, Genesis 46. We're going to start at Genesis 46, verse 33. All right. And just to give y'all some backstory, we're all familiar with Joseph and how he was sold into slavery by his brothers, right? And he makes his way. He eventually makes his way to Egypt. He rises in power, right? Everybody's familiar so far. And then the famine comes. And his family, Jacob and all of his brothers, come seeking, some a safe haven, if you will. They're seeking somewhere to go because his famine is hitting, and so they go to Egypt. And Joseph recognizes them. They don't recognize him initially, but then they eventually do. And then because he has this power, Most High in Christ, because he has this power where he is. He sets them up appropriately in a safe manner. So let's see what he does, right? It says, and it shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall call you and shall say, what is your occupation? This is Joseph giving him the game. This is gonna happen, right? It's gonna come to pass when he's gonna call you and say, listen, what do you do? Verse 34. That ye shall say, thy servant's trade has been about cattle from our youth, even until now. Meaning what? Meaning we deal with cattle. That's what we do. We've been doing it our whole life, from our youth and up. That's what we've been doing. Goes on. Both we and also our fathers. This is what our whole family been doing this, man. We deal with cattle. That's all we know, right? That ye may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. So this is Joseph telling his family, when he asks you this question, and he's going to, tell him you're a shepherd. Tell him you deal with cattle, because they don't like them. And he said, Salaki, that they may dwell in the land of Goshen. So he's setting this up. You tell him that, and we're going to see in the next chapter how it plays out. Let's see. Young man Edwards said, I don't argue with nobody. I tell them ISUPK Virginia, they got free smoke for you. Go ahead and check them out and get blessed. Most High in Christ. Most High in Christ. Absolutely. If they want to come up against these mighty men of the Lord, I mean, hey, we know how that's going to play out. But that's wise to not go back and forth. That's very, very wise. All right. So now that's the end. I think that's the end, right? It's like it. Yes. So that's the end of 33. So let's go to 34. I mean, the end of 46. Let's go to 47, Salaki. All right. It says, then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, my father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen. That's where they are. Let's see. That's why I said off topic, but I have had people ask, why is it so aggressive at camp? Give me a little bit more. When you say aggressive, give me an example of what you mean. I think I do, but I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So give me a little bit more. Aggressive how? Aggressive how? All right, I'm gonna keep going. Slack it. And they're in the land of Goshen, right? So he's going to the Pharaoh. Listen, my father, my brothers, they done brought everything and came here, and they're off in Goshen. Verse 2, and he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh, right? And verse 3, and Pharaoh said unto his brethren, what is your occupation? And they said unto Pharaoh, thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. Verse 4. So they did exactly what Joseph told them. We're shepherds. We're shepherds. Our fathers were shepherds. And they said moreover unto Pharaoh, verse 4, and they said moreover unto Pharaoh, for to sojourn in the land are we come, for thy servants have no pasture for our flocks. For the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. Now, therefore, we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. That was the ask. Let us go to Goshen. Let us go to Goshen. I see your response. I'm going to get to it as soon as I'm done with these next 2 scriptures, all right? Actually, Salaki, let me address this now, and then we'll get back to that. All right, the sister said the yelling and strong presence of brothers on Shema. All right, so I'll give you a scripture. Where is that scripture? Oh, goodness. What is that scripture? Give me a second. Give me a second. This is a good question. It's a good question. Proverbs. Is that what I want? Proverbs 15:10. Bear with me. I got to get this scripture. Y'all bear with me. It's a lucky. My brother said Isaiah 58:1. Is that what I'm looking for? This will work. This is not the one I was looking for. Ezekiel 3:8. That might be, I think that is closer to the one I was looking for. All right, we're going to pull both of them. Isaiah 58:1 is actually a solid scripture. All right. Yes, this is a solid scripture. Okay, so to answer the sister's question, right? Isaiah 58:1. It says, cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression. That is exactly what happens at camp. When you say the yelling and the strong presence of brother on Shamar. Now, we're on Shamar because, this kingdom doesn't like what we say. It doesn't like to hear the truth. Our people don't like to hear the truth. And the reality is that we put ourselves in danger going out to camp, which is why our women don't go out to camp, because women don't go to war. And that's what we're doing out on that corner. But the strong presence and the yelling is just what this scripture is. Cry aloud, spare not. Meaning don't spare anyone. We give the truth to everyone there. And we're speaking to our people. And this is the reason why I asked that specific question, as far as give me a little bit more. We're speaking to our people. We're crying aloud. We're not sparing anyone, because as the scriptures say, lift up thy voice like a trumpet and show thy people their transgression. We are out there showing them. You are not supposed, everything you all just said, you are not supposed to be marrying these other nations. You are not supposed to be voting. You are not supposed to be celebrating your birthday. You are not supposed to be celebrating Christmas, which everyone does. You are not supposed to be eating shrimp, crab, and lobster. We are crying aloud. And that's what the Bible says to do. And that's absolutely why we get on the corner and do it. Now, what I thought you were referring to is when other people come up against the camp, because that becomes a battle that is different. It's still aggression, but most often it steps up, because now you are challenging the priests and the prophets of the Lord. And if you are challenging the priests and prophets of the Lord, then you are encouraging our people to continue to transgress against the law. Essentially, that's what you're doing. You have betrayed your family, you have betrayed your nation, and you are then combating the priests and prophets of the Lord. And when you do that, you are going to get a heightened level of aggression, because this is very serious. Now, at the same time, what we're talking about is words and voices. We're not violent. We don't encourage any violence. We don't want any violence. Understand. And this is not for the sister. This is for anybody who might come across this video. Understand, we will defend ourselves. Absolutely, we are trained to do so. But when you are coming up against the priests and prophets of the Lord, and you are going against the truth of the Bible, you are putting everybody else in more danger, in grave danger, because you are potentially going to make them think that what they're doing is right, and they're absolutely not. And we have to cry aloud and be very strong in how we say this. And then when you come up against the camp, you are now putting everyone else in more danger, which makes, it becomes war. We are not doing this because we are just upset. That's not it. Yes, we are, because oppression maketh the wise man mad. But that's not only it. We're not just out here trying to upset everyone. We're trying to wake our people up and call out their transgressions. Absolutely. Obviously, Uriah said it perfectly. And Salakia, he said, man or woman, you will be dealt with accordingly. That is the absolute case. But we are not there for people to come up against the camp. That's not what we're there for. We're there to show our people their transgression, to cry aloud, spare not, lift up our voices like trumpets, and show our people their transgression. Now, when you come up against the camp, you will be dealt with accordingly. I hope that gave you what you needed, sis. All right, Tawada, no sweat. I underbar. All right. Let me see. A couple more scriptures in here. I'm gonna pull them. Those are good questions, though. Those were good questions. Let me pull Ezekiel 3 and 8. Officer Yagadar put that in the chat. Ezekiel 3 and 8. This is a good one as well. Ezekiel 3 and 8 says, behold, I have made thy face strong against their faces, and thy forehead strong against their forehead. We are that. Now, what you do see, and the sister says she don't want no smoke, no sweat. I understand, no sweat. Well, what you do see, though, is a strong, and here's too many things, slow down. What we're out there doing is speaking to our people, right? The world sees that as intimidating and aggressive. And all we're doing is literally reading out of the Bible and breaking it down. That's all we're doing. We're talking about history. We're talking about the suffering of our people, the oppression of our people, but the world sees that as aggressive. Why? Because the world does not see Black, Latino, and Native American men in a position of strength. We are always on the bottom, purposefully under this oppressor. And as soon as you show strength, which is different from aggression, aggression is different than strength. We are out there strong, but it's perceived as aggression. And even that is a function of this oppressor. Even that. But that was a Tawab scripture, the water for that. Obviously, Yagadar. All right, we got one more. Right. So hold on. Sister Raya said masculinity is scary to the world. Yes and no. It's not masculinity. It's Black masculinity. Black masculinity is scary to this world. They're petrified of it. I don't want to say as they should be, but here's the problem. Here's the problem. There you go. Exactly. Black masculinity is the problem. And here's why. Because they're aware of all of the oppression and affliction and destruction that they have done to our people. And to get one in, Salaki. All right, let me see. The guru said, your knowledge is your strength, though. I don't, sure. Okay, I'm not sure what your point is, though. I'm not sure what your point is. And I'm not even sure what do you mean your knowledge is your strength? Give me a little bit more on what you're saying, the guru. Let's see where you're going with this. Meanwhile, laws are being passed to severely oppress and distinguish the poor. Exactly. Meanwhile, we're the highest in blood pressure. We're the highest in listen. Brotherhood is a weapon. I wondered, see, I was like, where is this coming from? That sounds real suspect to me. Salaki. The water, obviously, you're right. Yes. Meanwhile, we are the highest in blood pressure. Highest in high blood pressure. We are the highest in cholesterol. We got the worst stats of everything, but yet we're eating everything that we need, that we choose to eat. We're eating everything that the Most High said don't, and then we wonder why we have all these afflictions. Go to the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy. You'll see all those things broken down. We're going to have all these curses, which we absolutely do. But yet when we're out there trying to tell our people to stop, it's viewed as aggressive when it's just strength. It's just strength for this nation. Some knowledge is a weakness. Okay, Most High Christ. I'm gonna pull that in a second. I think I don't know how much attention I'm gonna get a person. Salakia. Where were we? 8:55. We got all right. We're gonna probably run over a few minutes because I need to wrap up that 40 acres in the Mule. But let me see. Amos 3 and 6. Let me see what Amos 3 and 6 is. Amos 3 and 6. Should the Lord not do that? I'm gonna read. I'm not sure where you. I think you were trying to line that up with the trumpets that we're raising our voice as. It says, "Shall a trumpet be blown?" This is Amos 3 and 6. "Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in the city, and the Most High hath not done it?" Verse 7. "Surely the Most High power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret. He revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets." Now that is absolutely true. And because he revealeth his secrets to the prophets, the priests and prophets, is why we have to go out and tell our people how they are transgressing his law. All right. Was there anything? I thought I saw another scripture. Maybe not. No sweat. The sister says she's straight. There it is. Isaiah 4 and 6. Obviously, Yagadar. It's like Hosea 4 and 6. Hosea 4 and 6. There it is. Absolutely. He says some knowledge is a weakness, right? Because my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. Thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy power, I will also forget thy children. This is the Most High saying, we're destroyed because we don't understand. We don't have our understanding. We don't follow the law. We rejected the Most High. We rejected the Most High's knowledge. To Yagadar's point, we rejected it following something else. That's knowledge there too. It's not good for us though. That's not our power. Our power is the law, statutes, and commandments. That knowledge is something that's just like the knowledge of good and evil in Genesis, right? That's a metaphor for taking on these other nations. When you experience something that you should have never experienced, when you decide to get high and smoke crack, now you have the knowledge of good and evil of that. That's the evil. You knew the good because you weren't crackhead. Now you know the evil as well. That's a knowledge too. So no, all knowledge is not power, right? Absolutely correct. All right, so now we got it. Let's jump back to Genesis 47. Genesis 47. This is again when Joseph was getting his people set up to be in the land of Goshen, right? He was getting Jacob and his brothers and everybody to be set up so that they would be in the land of Goshen. Absolutely, damn right. All right, where were we? I think we were at verse. I think we're at verse 5. I'm gonna start at verse 5. And Pharaoh spake to Joseph, saying, Thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. Verse 6. The land of Egypt is before thee, and the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen, let them dwell. So this was all what Joseph was setting up in the first place. That's why he said in in chapter 46, when he asks you this, tell him you're a sheep, you're shepherds. They can't stand shepherds. And I'm gonna get you set up over here. All right. And if thou knowest any men of activity among them, then make them rulers over my cattle. Right? Go and set them up over there. Matter of fact, have them, head up and manage my cattle that I got over there. Because like he said, they're abominations to Egypt. They don't like them. Right? Now, between 7 and 26, it talks about how, and then y'all go back and read it, because again, we're up on time, but still, we got a lot to cover. Y'all go and read it, because again, the famine still hit the land, and Joseph was making all these deals because people didn't have no food, so on and so forth. They were selling off land. They were doing all these things, right? Jump to verse 27. Everything was happening, and everybody was in a famine, and everybody was hurting for food, and they had to sell their land off. They had to do all these things. Except our people. Says verse 27 says, and Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. We were off to ourselves. We were off to ourselves, and while everybody was suffering at this famine, we had possessions and we grew and multiplied exceedingly. So to give y'all some perspective, right? Hopefully this will come up the way I want it to. It's not what I wanted to show you. Where is it? There it is. As you all can see, hopefully, move this over. This was Egypt. Egypt ran all the way, right? All the way down there. We were here, off to ourselves, separate, living among ourselves, which was the same thing that was supposed to happen with that land with the 40 acres and a mule. It's the same thing that we did then in the Bible is what should have happened, which is why I say the preachers that were heading up the church then are not the same caliber of people that are heading up the church now. Integration in this oppressor has completely softened those same preachers that at one point were strong and said, no, we need to be by ourselves, give us land and leave us alone. Those they don't exist anymore. The only place that exists is in the ISUPK. That strength that we were talking about. And again, that's not aggressive. That's just strength. Salakia. Salakia, Adawan, can we have knowledge of things we don't subscribe to? I believe I know what you mean, but give me a little bit more. Give me when you say, can we have knowledge of things that we don't subscribe to? Meaning what? Can we have an understanding of Islam? Is that what you're asking? Can we have an understanding of what Egyptology is? Is that what you're asking? Give me a little bit more. Make sure I got what your question is. What's your thoughts on certain groups expecting or asking these nations for reparations? Would a paycheck land that have you, would a paycheck land or what have you in a failed economy be justified? I don't see it. Here's the problem. Reparations is just. Reparations should happen. Before it can have any type of positive outcome, an impact on our people, we got to get back to following the law, statutes, and commandments. Reparations is going to make every drug addict worse. Reparations is going to make every if our people now got a lump sum of money, it would make our entire nation worse because we don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments as it is. The first thing that needs to happen is we got to come back to the Most High. We got to come back to the Most High. This is Captain Natzak and Shai is in the building. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Al-Shabrakatah. As he said, everyone hit those likes, Baba Kusha. But yeah, the idea of reparation, we're so far from that. We are so far from that. Is it just? Is it appropriate? Yes. Would it help our people today? No, because our people got so much more work to do. We got to get back in line with the law, statutes, and commandments. And then maybe that would be something that would be beneficial. But at that point, Christ's gonna be on his way back. So I mean, hey, that's nothing. That I look, this is just me. I look at talking about reparations like talking about flat earth. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't, to me, it's just, I don't spend a whole lot of discussion on it, right? I don't spend a whole lot of time on it because at the end of the day, our people are destroyed. And the one thing that they need is to come back to the law, statutes, and commandments and get the ISUPK and the command of joining Yahweh. That's what we need. All right. If that happens, come on, it'll be a wrap. Christ come back and we ain't got to worry about no reparations. So they're gonna get everything that's coming, but you understand what I'm saying. Right, we wouldn't know what to do with it. We wouldn't know what to do with reparations right now. Our people are too destroyed to get a lump sum of money. It's just going to be one. It's going to be given right back to the oppressor. It would not be wise right now. Our people got a lot more work to do. All right. So we got Joseph. We understand that he had the same kind of spirit as those preachers at the time. Let's get away to ourselves. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the killer. Here's the question. Cap said, give it to preachers. Salaki. Do all the wrong things with the money. Right. Absolutely. Right. Just Rod saying the same thing. Todd's gonna go to the church. It's gonna be Jordan seafood. Listen, everybody gonna have brand new. It's nothing is gonna. It's not gonna actually have a positive impact on our people. Said kind of I figured because of the topic of the class. The conversations being had now, it was relevant. Well, I'm not saying it's not relevant, but again, so here's where I want to bring the last piece. That's why I said, is it just? Yes. And at the time, it would have had a strong impact on our people and on our nation. We're so destroyed now, it wouldn't have the same impact at all. Right, barbecues everywhere, whole lot of smoke blowing. It would be absolutely horrible. At the time when we were just coming out of slavery and we knew that this oppressor was our enemy collectively, yes, it would have had a different impact. It would have had a different impact. And here's how I'm going to show you the fast forward of it. Since I laughed at Cat's comment, here's the fast forward of it. And in this article, there's going to be a fast forward of it, and you're going to see how the oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. Right. Caps, our people don't know about farming and agriculture. Half of our race is strung out on drugs. Right. You give half our race that lump sum, you're going to have a bunch of ODs off tops. Black Lives Matter was all LGBT buying prostitute, right? Exactly. So let me pull this article up, because here's the question. Here's the question that we can ask ourselves, right? There was a specific land. We saw that. We saw how it was plotted out. There was a specific piece of land that was supposed to be given to black families so they could set up 40 acres, so on and so forth. It was given. That's what we're going to find out. It actually was given and was snatched back. We saw that, right? Wait a minute. Brother said, you're right, my money will be gone. You definitely need to keep checking in class and getting to school then. Because it's like, I'll mess with you a little bit. And they would tax. Yeah, they would tax. I mean, of course, that's a whole nother, again, we're so far away from that. All right. But the fact that you say your own money will be gone is a little concerning, brother. All right. So Karen Dove Barr. This is a whole nother discussion, right? Karen Dove Barr parked her cart next to a golfers only sign. Up ahead, men in khaki shorts and polo shirts leaned on golf clubs around the 12th hole. Houses with large wooden decks dotted one side of the fairway. On the other side, miles of shallow salt marshes extended the horizon. As Dove Barr walked along the footpath, her tennis shoes crunched ancient oyster shells. It's setting the scene. An echo of the past of a past when indigenous and later enslaved people once lived and fished here. She says that's where Mr. Waring would launch his boat, pointing to a shaded area on the patch of the Georgia shoreline. William Waring, which is who she was referring to, was a wealthy Savannah physician whose family owned this land and enslaved dozens of people on it. The Waring estate, about 1,300 acres and roughly the size of 980 football fields, was one of several massive plantations on Skidaway Island. Y'all might have remembered, we just read about Skidaway Island. Back then, a short boat ride from Savannah. Okay, all right, I was concerned. Brother said, not here. All right, I was concerned. No sweat. All right, it says today, the land is home to a lavish gated community called the Landings, where nearly everyone gets around on a golf cart. This is her quote. She said, I hate to say it, but this is paradise. This oppressor is living in paradise, as she describes it. Said Dove Barr, peering through aviator glasses and at the glittering Tidewater Marsh. Look at her. Got a golf cart. She is in heaven. She is in heaven right now. Y'all remember her. Remember her as we keep reading. All right. Says the 77-year-old attorney and author, who is white, knows her idyllic community hides a cruel history. She knows this. The Landings was built on several plantations that were set aside for newly emancipated black families as a part of the land distribution program that would come to be known as 40 acres and a mule. This is the same land that we were just talking about. This is the same land that was supposed to be given to 40,000 black families so we could have our own community. They now live on it, and it's a huge subdivision with a golf course on it, and it's heaven to this oppressor. All right. By analyzing Freedmen's Bureau documents and historic maps, we surfaced the identities of at least 59 black men and women who received land titles, permitting them to live on and cultivate plots on or near land where this exclusive community now sits, only to have their land taken away as Reconstruction failed. What does that mean? That means they faltered, Slocky. That means they actually found the identities of almost 60 people who had been given land and then it was taken away later. on the same land where 40 acres and a mule came from. All right. I'm just making sure we set this scene so you can see how this plays out. Absolutely. I see some shocked faces. Yes. This is because, and again, it comes down to everybody heard of 40 acres and a mule. We all heard of 40 acres and a mule, and y'all said it earlier. That's all you ever heard. There's an actual history behind it that still is in effect and matters today. Because among those freemen was Philip Young, who was enslaved nearby on Ossabaw Island, Salakia, and received 40 acres on Waring's estate. John Maxwell, who joined the Union Army, received 40 acres on the homestead of William Simons, who served in the Confederate Army and whose property was also a part of the landing. So they've identified, they're just saying these are specific people that we know actually owned this land and was given as a form of reparations. Exactly. It puts you in the mind of Gullah Gullah Island. Give Sister Ra'aya a hand. Absolutely. Now remember, 40 acres and a mule. This order was passed in January of 1865. It says by the summer of 1865, shortly after the Civil War ended, Skidaway Island was already home to a thriving Black community. By the summer, we had started to move in and we were thriving. It says freedmen built homes, established local governments, and farmed the land. This goes back to what Captain was talking about. We don't know anything about agriculture today. Back then, it would have had an impact. It would have been something that would have been beneficial. You give us all of this now, we're going to have issues, which is why Cap always talks about what we need. We get money as celebrities. We buy houses, we buy cars, we buy jewelry. Nobody thinks about agriculture. Nobody thinks about doctors that we need in the neighborhood. Nobody thinks about lawyers that we need in the community. We don't think about these things. Back then, it would have had a different effect. All right. Salakia. But the utopia wouldn't last long. After President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, his successor, Andrew Johnson, stripped property from formerly enslaved Black residents across the South and returned it to the past enslavers. The betrayal of the 40 acres and a mule promise deprived thousands of Black Americans of their first chance to build wealth through land ownership. It also shut out many of their descendants from affluent communities later developed on land that was briefly theirs. Remember that, again, it shut out their descendants. They all know this, but watch how this lady responds in a second. All right. Had they been allowed to keep the land, this is a quote, had they been allowed to keep the land, they would have joined the competition of American capitalism like everybody else, said Allison Dorsey, a historian and professor emerita of Swarthmore, college. And instead, they were stripped of that opportunity, and those who didn't acquire land found themselves living in debt-managed and exploited labor conditions for decades. Now, it's a blackface. Now, let's see what this going on here. It says now, nowhere is this impact of that loss more obvious in Skidaway Island, where only 1% of current residents identify as Black. Among them is Linda Brown. This is Linda Brown right here. All right. She's a retired Army sergeant who grew up in Savannah and now lives in a 3-bedroom house in the Landings, a few streets down from her friend, Dove Barr, old girl in the golf cart. All right. Until we contacted her, Brown didn't know that Black men and women were actually given 40 acres on Skidaway Island, much less that her pricey community now sits on some of that land. Again, this is not knowing our history because Karen knew it. Karen was aware of the history of the land. This sister was not until she was contacted. All right. This is her quote. It says this is the sister's quote. This is breaking news, really. Sad part is, no, it's not, sis. They already knew this. You didn't. She said, this is breaking news, really. She said when she was shown one of the original land titles. As she sat on her couch processing the document, she asked about the freedmen's descendants and whether they wanted the land back, saying, where do we go from here? Now, I give that sister a hand because at least you thought about the descendants of those brothers and sisters. Watch how she saw response. The Reverend Ulysses Houston, which we read about in the other article, then about 41 years old, was among a group of 20 black ministers who met with General William Sherman. We talked about all of that to persuade him to provide the tracts of formerly Confederate land to emancipated black families. That was the meeting and how all of that went down. And that is a picture of that brother. All right. All right. Says after Sherman's promise of 40 acres, Houston led about 1,000 freed people to claim their plots on Skidaway Island. It was an orderly affair. That is something very, very, to me, that was very profound. It was an orderly affair. You got 1,000 brothers and sisters who just got out of slavery. They're going to get 40 acres so they can build their life. And guess what? We have to do this in order. That's of the Most High. We were closer to the Most High Spirit then than we ever are now. Yes, these are ministers, but we were closer to the Spirit of the Most High then. This needs to be done in order. All right. Slocky, it was an orderly affair. Houston and other freedmen had numbered each lot and distributed the land to families by pulling numbers from a hat. We shall build our, this is a quote, we shall build our cabins and organize our town government for the maintenance of order and the settlement of all difficulties. This is what we're going to do. We're going to manage ourselves. Houston told a correspondent for the Boston Journal who visited the island in 1865 and later compared the community to Plymouth Colony. This is a quote from the journalist. They go out and commence life as citizens, the reporter wrote. I have no doubt that their success, provided they are not hindered by arbitrary authority stirred up by old prejudices and hate. What is it saying? They're going to be fine as long as they're left the hell alone. All right. I got to skip forward a little bit. Perfect harmony prevails. The settlers abiding cheerfully with the decisions of their governor and council, wrote a white newspaper reporter with the Savannah Daily Republican, who acknowledged that he had initially accepted the invitation to visit the island with fear and trepidation. He was scared to show up. But then once he did, he realized, oh, they actually are doing great. And they're being left alone. So with the assassination, with Lincoln's assassination, white Southerners who previously owned plantations, including those in Skidaway, began hiring lawyers and seeking pardons from President Johnson in hopes of reacquiring their land. In 1866, the Warren family received their plantation back, and the following year, Simons did too, invalidating the titles held by at least 33 freedmen, including Maxwell. So they started lawyering up. We're going to figure out how to get this land back. After the Southerners got their plantations back, many began selling them to Northern investors. Now, watch how this works. We had land. It was stolen back. Now, watch how this then turned into what it is today. After the Southerners got their plantations back, many of them began selling them to Northern investors, including on Skidaway. The island remained mostly undeveloped for decades as investors sold and resold the land. The Warings sold their plantation to a prominent Savannah family, and nearly 20 years later, it was forced into foreclosure. All right. In 1941, a Pennsylvania paper company became the largest landowner on the Skidaway land, paying $116 per acre in today's dollars. That's dirt ball cheap. Okay. Just so we're clear, nobody gets an acre of land for $116. All right. For the next 12 years, Union Bag and Paper Corporation logged pine wood on the land for its massive paper mill in Savannah. So it was sold and resold. Understand, every time it's resold, somebody makes money off of it. Somebody makes money off of it. Somebody makes money off of it. So then this company comes in, they own a paper mill. Now they start harvesting the trees to make paper. So they're making more money on this land. All right. The company would later partner with the city to cover the cost of building a bridge and a causeway connecting Skidaway to the mainland. Now we're going to actually build a bridge. So that way it's easier to commute back and forth, to and from the island. And in 1969, is this the one I want? Yes, in 1969, the paper company acquired Chicago-based developer to build the Landings, which is the neighborhood that they live in. After the bridge and causeway were completed in 1972, the value of an acre on Skidaway skyrocketed. The Landings finally broke ground in 1973, and nearly 500 families would buy lots there by the end of the decade. This is a picture of a part of it. All right. Y'all can see they got their piers, they got their boats. Isn't that beautiful? All that stolen land. The Landings has since expanded into 7 distinct neighborhoods and takes up half the island. In 2022, the average home sale price there was $849,000. That's how much it costs to buy a house here, where 40 acres and a mule was supposed to start. $850,000. Dove Barr and her husband, that's old girl on the golf cart. Dove Barr and her husband bought a lot in 1984 and built a 5-bedroom home with a 2-car garage and a separate garage for her golf cart. She got a garage just for her golf cart. She believes, now here's the kicker. Remember what the sister said. The sister immediately thought about the descendants of her brothers and sisters who own that land. She thought about that immediately. Let's see. And she wasn't even aware of the history until she was told. This woman was already aware. Let's see what her perspective is. She believes the freedmen who had this land taken away could have made a claim for compensation, but she's skeptical that any of their living descendants could assert that any current hardships that those families face can be traced back to the Sherman's broken promise. Here's her quote. "I feel like it was not taken away from the people who are alive now," she said after viewing one of the land titles for the first time. "Any people who were involved in the hardship have long since gone." What does that mean? Well, it don't affect nobody today. We can't hold ourselves accountable for all of the money that was lost over all of this time. It's okay that now I'm going to leave this $850,000 home that she bought and built in 1984, which who knows how much equity she has in that thing. She's going to give that to her descendants, and that's fine. But you can't tie any hardships. We didn't take it. The land wasn't taken from anybody living today. Absolutely right. Officer Yagadar is correct. The same ish they say about slavery. Well, nobody owned slaves living today. So no, nobody is owed anything. Absolutely right. The devil the Bible speaks of. You're fully aware that you are living on stolen land, but yet the descendants of those people have no right to it in your mind, but your descendants are going to continue to benefit from everything that was done. This oppression that we're under is why it's so important for us to get in this truth and wake our brothers and sisters up. so we can come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. As the brother asked the question about reparations, it could have made a difference then. It will be destructive to our people now. We have to come back to following these laws, statutes, and commandments first. That is that's the primary concern of our people. And as we always say, if you want to be part of this fight, if you want to get your hands dirty and actually be on the work of the Lord, be doing some work of the Lord, put your brick in. Put your brick in. Get in contact with the ISUPK in your zone and say that you want to actually be part of this work. All right. And with that, we're going to get to these security announcements. And Salaki, if I could, there's only one other thing I want to say. This is, again, why it's so important. That sister who was living in that house had no idea. No idea. And just like all of us, right, who had heard about 40 acres and a mule, really didn't know anything about it. There's an actual history. There's a history that we have a negative disposition towards it. They don't really teach it in public schools, so we have to find it ourselves. And this is why the ISUPK has these classes. This is why it's important for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to get in the ISUPK, so you can actually get the history of your people, both inside and outside the Bible, because all of it matters. All right. All right, we at ISUPK started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother and sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister is interested in a particular person, so like if they're interested in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, you can find in the Numbers 18 and 21. Also Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. It means 10th, and in the Hebrew it's pronounced ma'ashara. Right? That's 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. You can give it to the Treasury Department. You can also go to isupk.com and pay it directly there. All right. Priest fund, which is a free will offering for the priest. It's not mandatory whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming Holy Convocation days. It's like upcoming Holy Convocation. The next one, let me make sure I get it. Salakia. Is the memorial blowing of trumpets. That will be October 2nd, which is a Wednesday. All right, October 2nd. So just make sure you keep your eyes and ears out for additional information on what may be happening on that. All right. And if any brother wants to become a trooper, it needs to be in all black. That's black boots, pants, shirt, headband, and war scarf. Make sure you get in contact with the school nearest you. You can Google ISUPK near me, and the school should pop up. You should get the name, the location, the number, specifically the number. Get in contact, call the school, and let them know that you want to actually be part of this work. It's okay to be a student and come to class. It's better to be in this work. Salaki. It's better to be in this work, all right, and actually be doing something towards for your people, effectively for your people. All right, sisters, you cannot be troopers, but you can be in the school. If you want to be in the body, you want to get your Hebrew name, same deal. Call the school, get in contact with the school in your zone. Just Google ISUPK near me. And if you are in Virginia, the number, as you can see it on the screen, is 757-550-1204. All right. And with that, the water. I appreciate it. Appreciate y'all's participation as usual. Absolutely. I appreciate it. The water. All right. And with that, we're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers. Shalom. Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shabarakatham. And to the sisters. Shalom. Yahweh Shamar Alathan by Hashem Yahweh Shai. We're going to play my favorite outro, which is the Sabbath service Salakia. We're gonna do that, and then we are gonna get up out of here. Let's see. Most High Christ. All right. Shalom, Israel.
Talk to me. Played the horn of Lord and served other gods. Remember the days of old, we the lost tribes. They don't believe the Bible. They say a white man wrote it, but still celebrate them holidays from white men, don't they? Like Christmas and Thanksgiving appetites. I don't even see my closest family half the time. Going out ain't an option, I won't compromise. I got integrity and more heart than Valentine. Kyrie tweeted a book they sell on Amazon, owned by the same folks that told them to apologize. Remember slaves couldn't read, wasn't allowed. So it's meaning when I tell you I'm black and I'm proud. Murdered us with the sword, that's how we learned religion. Community standards violate my First Amendment. Discontinue from my heritage under these bastards. Life a bitch, they make up lies and give you public lashes. I understand they confused by who the devil is. Why my people get so mad when I tell them this? Valley of dry bones, my niggas skeletons. It's hectic out there, hope you checking on your relatives. Brotherhood, that's what my weapon is. And I never let these crackers take it from me. Real talk, you probably never heard this all of your life. Be careful, cause that thing you love, it'll cost you your life. Long as we got each other, my nigga. Cause we build this shit on brotherhood. Long as we got each other, my nigga.
Yeah.
We build this shit
nigga,
on
I done lost family, I done lost friends. Day one, niggas thought was riding to the end. Still showed up, put in that work. Hide behind a smile while I'm walking with this hearse. Some nights I felt alone, most nights I felt cold. Some nights I drove around, I ain't wanna go home. Nigga, I ain't never been, nah, I ain't never fold. Follow orders like a soldier doing what I'm told. Even when the council wasn't making any sense, I ain't never doubted, I just put it to the test. Days I was fucked up and down to my last cent. Reaching in my pockets, only coming up with lint. I'm talking even on the days that I couldn't pay my rent. I put it down for my brothers, ain't spared no expense. If I ever got bent, caused an offense, please forgive you, brother, Lord, that ain't what I meant. See that brotherhood a weapon, fight against deception. When something taken from you, then it's just a blessing. Shorty really loved me, gave me everything she got. And I'm sorry, baby girl, if I ever broke your heart. Man, mistakes that I made, don't know if they'll fade. Moving with a heavy heart, living with the pain. Take away the shame, wash away the stain. Praying to the Lord for the days that I was Cain. Sheesh.
Long as we got each other, my nigga. Cause we build this shit on brotherhood. Long as we got each other, my nigga. Cause we build this shit on brotherhood.